This is Andres Florido. I'm part of Deloitte, the blockchain and digital assets team, including AI. I'm based out of the San Francisco office in California.
Great, thank you. Good to have you. As the lead for digital assurance initiatives at Deloitte, what are some of the key challenges corporations face when navigating the financial and tech complexities of blockchain algorithms and generative AI?
Well, that's a very interesting question, Rupert. Challenges when it comes to technology and the blockchain and AI, there are many, right? There are new blockchains, old blockchains, public blockchains, private blockchains, right? And I think what Deloitte tried to focus is creating that trust in the public, right? So challenges come to how are those blockchains secure, transparent, and providing the data that people are trying to do, right? So when we look at the data from a financial perspective, is the data being accurate, complete, and being provided in a timely manner, right? So some of the key challenges come to that, right? How accurate is this data? How in time I'm getting the data, right? And is it complete, right? Is everything that I'm expecting, right? And that's where we focus when looking at some of the key challenges, right? And as well the complexity from a technology perspective is there, right? With some new technology, it's been for a while, but it's still companies are adopting. And then in the financial aspect is the technology is built, but then how do you really grab that data and put it into let's say financial reporting, right? So some of the blockchain companies, if they need to present financials to a certain entity, is how are you going to do that presentation of the financial statements? And that's a whole challenge, right? So blockchain could be for utilize to provide the transparency and get these digital assets through the network. And then if just by moving things around, you just create a big challenge, right? And that's what I see nowadays, some of the key really challenges. And from a tax perspective, right? When you do transactions on a blockchain, it's where are you located? What type of transactions are you doing? And then many different things, do you have are you doing this under a company? Are you doing this as a DAO? Are you doing this as a foundation, etc.? So something really to think about, that maybe for founders that don't think about the big picture, that what are the implications when you're really trying to go to market and become one of the big players around the country.
How do you see Web3 solutions revolutionizing businesses, and what opportunities they present for organizations across different industries?
So I think the interesting thing about Web3 is how is the disrupting the market. And one of the things that we see is that the speed, right? Real time. So when it comes to transactions, leveraging Web3 tools is how fast you can get what you're looking for. So if it's a financial transaction, you can send a payment or a certain amount of X token or X digital asset to another entity or another person, and then that could happen in 5 minutes or less, in seconds, right? And then you receive it, and that's it's complete, right? Versus the other systems will take a little bit longer, which is okay, but that's how Web3 is disrupting the market, is making it a little bit more faster, more people can access, right? Even though sometimes the user experience couldn't be as easy, and some of the people might need some to read and get trained into how do I navigate these Web3 applications. But that's some of the things that we can think about.
What opportunities do you see for the integration of blockchain and AI technologies in financial services, and how has Deloitte been at the forefront of facilitating these integrations?
Right. So that's a good question. You know, it's like, what's the intersection of blockchain and AI, and what are we doing? And first, I think what we see with blockchain is a great technology because of the transparency, the speed of the technology. And then let's say that you have this technology in your organization, but then you are on top of that, you're putting that AI human intelligence, right? That is executing different models and different algorithms and different like ways of doing things or predicting things, right? Or running different scenarios through your smart contract, which is on the blockchain. So you have the blockchain as the base, and then on top of that, you put like AI models, which is the human intelligence. So this is just creating like, it's kind of like the A-team, right? When you put those things together, it's like you're trying to create what blockchain is built for, like the transparency, the security, the decentralization of things. And now you bring on top these AI models that do kind of like the human analysis of data, the prediction, right? Identifying insights. And also, if you want to test, let's say in the financial services, and you want to identify certain transactions, you can put your like neural networks, right? You can put like bad scenarios, good scenarios, like transactions, and let the models start learning and identifying what's good and what's bad, right? Instead of you just writing, like before, these AI models were like in the market, we, or like developers, would write, you know, thousands of lines of code telling the code what could be the scenarios, like, hey, if you find these, do this, right? Versus nowadays, these AI models are coming with that, as I said, like human intelligence, they start learning, right? It's like, okay, this is what we think that is suspicious, and this is what we think that is good, right? So that's kind of like what we see now. You mentioned like what's Deloitte doing? That's what we're doing, right? We're helping companies to think outside of like, okay, we have a blockchain company, right? And then we have all these transactions happening. Then how can we get on top AI models? It could be financial transactions that are looked at, and then AI is identifying and predicting things for the CFO, for the chief accounting, even for the CEO, like in terms of the strategy, right? If it's for the CTO, it's like, okay, what's my maintenance prediction here? Like, what's going to happen? What could go wrong with my technology, right? And then you prepare and you start thinking ahead, because you never know when you are going to become so big that overnight, and yesterday you had 20,000 users, and you wake up today and you have like 3 million users, right? What's the impact of whatever business that you're in, and how prepared are you, right? And if you have regulatory bodies looking for information from a financial perspective, right, how can you start preparing and getting that financial information ready, right, with the certain requests or requirements that these regulatory bodies need, right? And you could also use AI models to start identifying and classifying data, so it's easier for your team to kind of like put the financials together.
Thank you, very insightful. In what ways has Deloitte driven innovation in financial reporting through the adoption of blockchain and AI technologies, and what benefits have clients experienced as a result?
So I think kind of like on the innovation front, I think I touched a little bit like how, like what Deloitte has been doing, but our idea is, and our goal and objective is to be able to have either help companies get ready, right, to be audited, or we take on the mandate of auditing companies and providing an opinion on what we see, right? And then also like helping companies achieve what they're looking for, right? From a financial, from technology, from a strategy perspective, right? And when it comes to Deloitte on the blockchain and AI front, what I just mentioned earlier, like looking different ways of kind of like helping companies leverage what they have, right? So we speak to clients, we look at their tech stack, and then we say, okay, with this, you can also leverage these type of AI models within your financial processes, right? In order to get these financials ready, right? Or it's like, you identify, you do an assessment. Are you ready to now like getting those models, or what are the things that you need to do before to start cleaning your environment so you then can have AI models on top, right? Because as always is being said in the industries, like you get data that is not good, then the output is not going to be great, right? So you need to make sure that what you have in-house is great, so you can produce great results, great outputs, great financial statements. And I think this is applicable, like when we speak about the financials and what Deloitte do, is like it depends, right? Like a lot of companies perhaps don't even need the 2% financials to a certain entity because they don't have like banks that are asking for, or investors that are asking for. So as they grow, they get into a need of, like the tax reporting since like day one. As long as they're, like getting into the business in the US or like in a tax regulatory environment, then you need to produce those. And then for financial statements, if you have certain regulatory bodies that are asking for, or like investors, then you need to get that ready. So we can like help these companies to like think from a broader perspective, right? That is not only you just get the technology up and running, you're making money, and then this is excellent, right? Because the moment you start making money and you start being on the news, then right there are certain regulatory bodies that you got to respond to.
The next set of questions I'm going to ask are going to be a little bit more general.
Okay.
But you can feel free to tie them back however you see fit. Can you share your perspectives on the most significant developments in the blockchain space over the past year?
I think, the most significant is just like how the smart contracts have evolved, right? The technology is growing, and as everybody gets more involved and companies develop better things, is that the security of the blockchain gets better, right? Even though like blockchain is secure, but there are things that happen on the blockchain that you need to kind of review and identify where was something changed, right? So as things gets more secure, more transparent, more decentralized, then the blockchain kind of like gets better, right? And that's why we see a lot of the new technologies coming in, because it's like you have the layer ones, right, that we could say is like the operating systems if you were to compare for like on like software, right, on your computer. And then you have these layer twos that kind of like make things faster and create new products and etc. So there's no specific one, it's just like how great the industry is growing. And then for us, we need to kind of like adjust and identify kind of like those new trends and start helping clients. Sometimes they come and they're like, they have a vision, they have an idea, they have a goal. And then it's like, we sit down and we can like identify, is this visible? What are the challenges? What are the things, right? And that's kind of like some of the things that we do, right? In a different aspect, because Deloitte is a big team, right? From a tech, from a tax, from an accounting, from a like digital transformation. There's so many things that we do from a legal perspective, right? So it's like identifying as well which team at Deloitte is the right one to help you. But the great thing is like you have a diverse team that as we are helping a client, we can pick and select who is the right person to come and support this company. And that's what we call at Deloitte, like the green dot, right? Which means like you're bringing everybody, because kind of like, yeah, they're like different teams.
How do you see the role of traditional financial institutions evolving with the rise of decentralized finance and blockchain technologies?
So the role is like traditional finance, like they are like, they have done a great job in the market anyways, regardless of like the many years that they have been in the industry. That's the reason that they're still there, is because they have been somehow like competitive. Some agree, some not agree with like how traditional banks work, but they're still there. And sometimes, as you can see, like even though there are new Web3 products, some Web3 products run sometimes a portion or something connected to traditional financial systems, right? So the transformation on the banking side that we're seeing is banks are thinking like forward and saying, how can we embed digital assets into our products? How can we provide access to a high net worth individual versus a retail? How can we be the provider? But these large banks, they do it in a way that they test things internally, they do an assessment, they like the moment that they issue a product that give access to digital assets is when they really feel and they have done like a lot of testing, they have been advised, and then they take the chance to do it, right?
You kind of touched on this before, but what do you see as the biggest challenge facing the adoption of blockchain technology, and how can the industry overcome that?
So the challenge with blockchain and sometimes even like AI is that it's confusing for people, right? Where do you go to use it? How do you use it? What are the capabilities that you can do with the technology? So I think for adaptability, there are companies that are thinking about it, right? And that are saying, okay, it's complex to go and create a wallet. It's complex to go and analyze transaction on a blockchain, right? It is complex to leverage third-party tools that do analysis on top of like on-chain data. So there are companies that are like thinking from that perspective and say, okay, in order for this to be a big play in the market, they need to create that sense of like user-friendly, right? So how do you don't get caught up into like a long wallet address to get into be a participant of a blockchain, right? So as things change and get like a little bit more user friendly, then we're going to see a lot of like user adoption and company adoption as well, right? Because that has been the crypto industry. It's always testing, always educating people. There are a lot of companies that are doing things internally. They don't have any service to the public, but internally they're educating their executives or educating their C-level to see, hey, this is the potential that we could have, or this is how we could get disrupted by the industry if you know a competitor kind of creates this.
How do you envision the future of Web3, and what impact do you think it will have on the internet as we know it today?
The impact of Web3 is like the access, right? Like access to things. As you get into some of the public like protocols, which is, I believe that's where some companies are going, and then others are going with private. Like we don't take a position, right? It's like we kind of like discuss, but the Web3 is kind of like changing things, and it's giving access to different like ways of doing things, transacting things, and then taking ownership. And on that, we can touch on the tokenization, right? Like it falls under like the Web3 impact of the future, but it's like tokenization of things. Like I was speaking at the conference with someone, and there are certain things in the world where if you don't know someone or you are part of that small community, you don't get access to, right? So if you want to own certain real estate, like the building that we're right here now, probably you and I will never hear that this building is for sale, right? But tokenization is going to bring that to life. That is like a regular person at a random place in this country is going to be able to identify opportunities and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to put $1. I'm going to put $10, right? And that's the revolution of tokenization. Being able as well to move, this is on the traditional side, being able to move your stocks from one place to another, just like you do crypto. You move your crypto from company A to company B in like a second. You didn't like the customer service, you move. You didn't like the technology, you move, right? In banking, you want to move, it takes a long time. You need to do a lot of paperwork, right? And they're going to ask you a lot of questions, which is the regular traditional process that has been in place, and it's great. But tokenization is going to bring a little bit something faster that is going to help them as well to kind of like from a user, like make it happen a little bit at a speed. So I think tokenization is kind of like super interesting to bring that ownership to people and access.
What advice would you give to new entrepreneurs entering a blockchain and crypto space today?
It's a very interesting question, because sometimes you feel that you have to read a lot and you have to like kind of like stay up to speed with everything that is happening in the market. But even I'm in the industry, sometimes it's like there are new players every day, and it's hard to catch up, right? It's hard to stay up to date. Sometimes you meet new people, you meet new companies, you're like, wow, this is great. And it's kind of like, you need to pick something that is an interest of you, and kind of like, as you find it fascinating, like get a little bit more deeper into that if you're looking to develop a solution for that specific topic. Otherwise, it would be like, like trying to catch up with everything, and at the end, it will be very hard to get into that niche and that solution that maybe you're looking for.
That would conclude the interview. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that you would have liked me to ask, or that you're still like sharing?
No, I think this is great. Like we're at Consensus 2024, just to hear the community, just to see how things are going in the space. Before, I used to attend this conference and there were not large players. It was just like a lot of small founders trying to create products and disrupt the industry. Now we're seeing like billions of dollars flowing in the industry, right? So it's very interesting how the industry is changing, how it's growing. And then as I said, like what we focus at Deloitte is kind of like building that trust, building that, helping companies with their decision making, and then helping them to kind of like comply with different things that is kind of like are in place to kind of like be in business in this country, right? From a financial reporting perspective, from a tax perspective, from a technology, from a strategy perspective. So I think that's kind of like what we focus on, that we're happy, and that's the reason that we're here, is kind of like supporting the community, speaking to clients, speaking to new companies, and then growing, helping to grow the space. Always good to be involved, and always good to hear new perspective, right? Because we also learn as we connect with new founders and new companies.